Before we get into this video, I first wanted to talk about the game itself, for safety's sake. I was, at first, going to make a simp review of Vampire Survivors, because this game is really fun. But seeing as I like this game so much, perhaps the simp review is a tad too mild. Instead, to spice it up, I better ask my girlfriend if she'd be cool cuckolding me for the cuckold review. Because this game is so goddamn good that I could easily become a slobbering cock goblin, jacking me juices while Vampire Survivors serves as my girlfriend better than I ever could. And I was prepared to go down this X-rated path of getting my channel completely scrubbed off of YouTube's backside and then having to re-upload it on one of the other types of tubes. Or at least I was, until this happened. Vampire Survivors is an action roguelike game in which enemies spawn off screen, lock onto you and walk towards you, and will kill you unless you kill them first. Each time you kill a spawn, it drops a gem, and in collecting enough of said gems, you level up. Now, collecting things is about as fun as drooling on yourself, but after you level up, you are presented with 4 random weapons, in which you choose one. Upon each subsequent level up, you choose another weapon, slowly drafting away towards ultimate power. Over the years, I've fallen in love with games in which you survive, slowly gathering experience until you reach your apotheosis. And in Vampire Survivors, you can reach Eldritch levels of power. That is, until the 30-minute mark, at which time all on-screen enemies are annihilated, and a Reaper appears to finish off what the mobs could not, ending your run and ending your fun. Just who the fuck does Death think he is, determining the end of my amusement, the little cunt? So, deep in my wrath, I vowed to bring death to death itself. But, understandably, death ain't so easy to kill. I tried many a time, sacrificing many hours and days of sleep, employing the strongest weapons available, but to no avail. So I journeyed, in-game, inside the many maps and caverns within the game in order to sate my newfound addiction for greater power. But death caught wind of my warpath, and on one of my indoor journeys I was ambushed by my foe. And after this cheeky fucking kite, I could take the disrespect no longer. I boiled over and committed a 9/11. After that quick diversion, I returned to the game, believing myself to be refreshed. But I soon realised that I'd gained no satisfaction from killing the living. My craving could only be satisfied by something greater, by killing the unkillable. The next morning, I woke up with a boner, and after a quick power jack, I was back at it again. But this time I came with a secret weapon. On my earlier journeys, I'd learnt about said secret weapon, the Crimson Shroud, a cloak capable of defending me from the Reaper's lethal touch. Surely, I thought, if I pair this with weapons of mass destruction, I ought to be able to bleed the idiot out. But, as it turned out, I was the imbecile, for what I hadn't anticipated was the second Reaper, or the third Reaper, nor the 103rd Reaper. I wasted hours, and hours, and hours, until I felt that particular tug towards a jack. And that jack, at the end of 200 hours of Vampire Survivors, was wholly unsatisfying. I felt like shit, like a drug addict at the tail end of his high. Reality was advancing back into focus, and upon that post-night clarity, I saw myself for what I really was, Death's bitch. This conclusion hurt at first, but like all broken beings, I adapted. Or I almost did, until I stumbled upon another powerful weapon, the Infinite Corridor, an item with the ability to halve the health of any enemy it hits, each and every time. With another element in my armory, and some much needed confidence, I resisted the urge to bend over for Daddy Death. Now, it was time to make him bend over. And I thought I had, until Super Death showed up. I was in mourning. I had beaten one addiction, only for it to be supplemented for another, more dominant one. Again, I felt a pang for victory, but was it even possible to beat this Super Death? I raced back into the game to see if it was, and it was not. After that, I went cold turkey. Not for the greater good of my health, but because a loser like myself should just shrivel away into a husk, forgotten about. It wasn't until minutes later that I returned to my dependency, and upon seeing this icon, I knew I was back. It was like your first cigarette after a long hiatus. I was immediately hooked. Now look at me. I began as the Chosen One, and now I've become the very thing I swore to destroy.